Cool. How's it going? Welcome to Make Anything. I'm Devin, the king of cowlicks. And today we're doing another 3D pen project/experiment. The experiment part is that we're going to be testing some of the cheapest 3D pens that you could possibly find and seeing how those stack up against some of my favorites. So here I've got two pens that were sent to me by an eBay marketplace. This one was $10, this one was $15. And while this market doesn't exist anymore, that's totally fine because there's so many just like it. In fact, if you look up 3D pen on Amazon, eBay, Alibaba, wherever, you're gonna find 3D pens that look just like these. And I actually reviewed the 7tech pen, which is one such pen, quite a while ago. This pen, I think, cost $60 at the time. Now it's down to $40, and there's a lot of $40 versions of this pen. But then there's the non-branded $15 to $20 version as well. So we're gonna see how these compare, and then I've also got my Scribbler version 3.0, which is basically an upgraded version on all of these. I think this is gonna be really interesting because it's a big deal if you can get a $15 pen that works just as well as the more expensive ones. Why would you upgrade? And you know, even if they don't work as well, it might still be worth having around for touching up 3D prints, welding parts together, things like that. As far as what we're actually making today, well, I kind of left that up to you guys. I do have this new Instagram page I created called rejected.animals, and it's just a collection of really weird, crazy creatures and other doodles that I've sketched between now and 10 years ago. There's some really wild ones in there, and I thought it would be fun to ask you guys which ones you wanted me to make with the 3D pen. And both the Patreon poll and the public poll decided that they wanted me to draw the great wide shark. Get it? Like a great white, great wide. Oh, all right, I actually did open these. In fact, I had them on a live stream where I was gonna try them out initially, but it turned out this one came with a European plug, and this one came with a Chinese plug, so I wasn't able to try either of them out. That said, it turns out they use the same plug as the 7tech pen I have, so I'm gonna use the adapter from this pen to run both of these, and that should work just fine. So, first off, let's look at this $15 3D pen 2 versus the 7tech pen that was $60 or $70. I don't think it takes an expert to realize that these are nearly identical. There's some very slight differences in the little icon for some arrows or the number of slots here in the top, but for all intents and purposes, these look to be the exact same model. I'm gonna try them out and we'll see, maybe the speeds compare or the heating or how stringy things come out, but I have a feeling these are gonna be exactly the same. And then over here we've got the one based on the version 1.0. So as you can see, it doesn't have the LCD here. You can't change the temperature, but otherwise it's got the same speed dial and everything else works the same, so let's see how that one works. We can actually start out with the cheapest one. I'm also gonna be using MatterHackers PRO PLA for this project, since today MatterHackers has a Blue Friday sale going on their website. So check out the link in the description. They've got great discounts on their PLA, printers, as well as other accessories. I also just happen to like the colors for this project, and Pro PLA is super reliable, which is always a plus. So let's get started. Once you hit the feed button on this pen, it'll start heating up, and I actually noticed there is this little tab with a potentiometer inside, so if you have a little flathead screwdriver, you can actually turn that and adjust the temperature that way, but that's kind of finicky, so you're pretty much just gonna decide on a temperature and leave it at that. Oh, there goes that. Anyways, there's also this slider here on the side that determines how fast the filament comes out. It goes from unbearably slow to incredibly fast and everything in between, although it can be quite sensitive, so you kind of just have to find the right position and probably not mess with it too much. So for my great wide shark, we're gonna start out by drawing the top profile of the shark. So as you can imagine, it's got this really wide mouth up front, and that kind of tapers back into a triangle kind of shape towards the tail. I know this line was kind of wobbly, but that's just because I'm warming up. It has nothing to do with the pen. You know, take some time to really get a steady hand. Anyways, once I've gone over that 2 or 3 times, I'll place this part underneath my 3D Mate base here, and then I'll draw the side profile on top of that, and that lets me reference the length of it to make sure that they match up perfectly. Next, I'll use my flush cutters to clip the end here so that I can stick these 2 parts together, and then I'll just use a little glob of PLA to secure them into place. At this point, the pen stopped extruding, and it looked like the nozzle on the front was about to pop off. When I tried to retract it and pull out the filament, it also got stuck that way. So I had to grab a screwdriver and take this thing apart. So let's open up the cap here. We'll take apart this little holder so that we can take out the tube, and then we can go ahead and free that bit of filament that got stuck. Let's put that back together and keep working. Except I didn't get very far before the pen stopped extruding again. Uh-oh. There were a few final attempts at extruding, but it was futile, and eventually the pen just wouldn't heat up anymore. So I guess that's it for this cheap $10 pen. Well, I guess that means it's time to test the $15 version 2 3D pen. It heats up quickly, it extrudes nicely, so let's go ahead and continue wrapping around this wireframe, kind of like a spider catching its prey, and that's going to create a bit of a structure so that I can draw more cross sections on top of that and keep building up on this base structure. If you look at the front view here, you can see I kind of still have this diamond shape where I want it to be more round. So the idea here is that I can build up sections in between the ones I've already drawn, and that helps me slowly round this shape out and create the nice organic shark body that I'm going for. Once I'm happy with the overall shape, I can go back and start creating a more solid surface for this shark. And while a real shark technically would have rather smooth skin, I'm creating an imaginary animal here, and well, it's just pretty hard to create a really smooth surface with a 3D pen. So instead I decided to use this kind of uniform scribbly texture that ends up looking a little bit furry. It would probably be ideal for a teddy bear or an animal that has hair, but you know what? I think it looks pretty cool for this shark as well. Here you can see what I accomplished. Looks pretty cool. I left a bit of an opening for the mouth here, and I also didn't go over the bottom surface yet because I'm gonna go ahead and do that now with a lighter gray to create some counter shading. You may have noticed that great white sharks have white bellies and gray tops, and that's because of a defense mechanism known as counter shading. Basically, the white belly helps them camouflage with the lighter ocean for animals looking from below, and for animals looking from above, they've got the dark top that blends in with the darker ocean water beneath. So there we go, I did that same kind of fuzzy looking texture on the belly, and next we're gonna take some black filament and use that to fill in the mouth. Of course, we're gonna have those great big teeth right here, but this black background will just peek through in between the gaps of the teeth once we add those. So yeah, we've got this nice single layer of black, and now I'm gonna go ahead and do those teeth. I'm gonna draw each tooth individually, just making a kind of triangle shape, and I'm really gonna build that up with lots of plastic so I get a nice hot blob of PLA. And while that's still soft, I can go ahead and sculpt it a tiny bit with my fingers to create this sharper looking tooth. I'll draw each tooth one at a time from left to right, and each time I'm smushing them with my fingers to create that sharp-ish looking triangle shape. There we go, a nice big set of chompers. Luckily they turned out pretty symmetric. And at this point, I decided that I wanted to carry that counter shading up a little bit further and use that shading to create a bit of a shape for the nose, since this great wide shark doesn't have much of a nose. So we're kind of bringing this gray up to a point above the mouth. I'll also build up some of this light gray behind where the eyes will be so that we'll get greater contrast with the black beady eyes that this guy's gonna have. All right, there we go with the counter shading. I do think it ended up looking a bit more natural that way. And I also added a few little tiny flecks to have a bit of a transition between the two colors. I didn't overdo it though. Next, I decided to outline the mouth with that darker gray to make the teeth stand out a bit more against the light gray, since it's pretty close to white. And you know what? This is a rejected animal, so why not give this shark lips? Now for another very important step, let's go ahead and add some fins to this guy. So we'll start with the signature dorsal fin that sticks out of the water and lets everyone freak out when there's a shark approaching. I'll draw that flat on my silicone mat and fill it in really loosely with the pen. Then I can go ahead and position it and stick it onto the body. We'll do the same for the pectoral fins on the side of the shark, as well as the caudal fin, or the tail, on the back. Now that we have these thin fin structures all in place, I can go ahead and start drawing on top of them with that same texture that I used on the rest of the shark to build up some thickness and just to make it solid. I switched back to that light gray to get the bottom of these pectoral fins, and the heat from the pen melted the fins a bit, which was actually kind of nice because it allowed me to reposition them and make them look a bit more organic. There's also some tiny additional fins that I wanted to include, so for those I just kind of created this little flap of plastic, and then I used my clippers to actually shape them. Finally, we'll switch back to black to finish up the facial features with these little tiny nostrils, and for the eyes, I'm just gonna create a big hot blob of plastic. With that, well, I think we've got ourselves a bona fide great white shark. But I do wish I had some way to present this a little better. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip over this 3D Mate base and actually use it for its intended purpose, which is to fill in these grooves to help create more precise geometrical shapes. I'm gonna use these to create a stand for my shark. So I'll create a couple of these curved sections as well as some straight pieces, and I'll stick them all together to make a quick little stand for my shark. Hey, it works. I'll go ahead and clip off some of the extra filament that I don't need, just to make it as minimal as possible. And there we go. We've got a nice, quick 5-minute shark stand. One final thing I did was heat up these fins once more with the heat gun so that I could do a little bit more repositioning until I'm really happy with the pose of this shark. Now my creation is truly complete. The world's first 3D great wide shark. Isn't he marvelous? You can't really make this scary, can you? It's a cute little great wide shark, and I think it turned out great. It was a really fun model to make, and I actually managed to finish it in one sitting, which is pretty rare for me with these larger 3D pen models. I'd say that's largely in part to the pen having a really fast top speed so that I was able to fill these large surfaces a lot quicker than I could have with some other pens. So when it comes to comparing these unbranded 3D pens, well, you saw the first version died almost instantly, so that wasn't too big of a surprise. I was more shocked at how well the second pen worked. This thing survived for several hours of continuous use working on this shark. I would say it is exactly the same as the branded version. You can get one of these for $90 or you can get this for $20, and they're really exactly the same. Maybe you have less customer support. If something goes wrong, you're probably not gonna get a replacement for this pen, but hey, I just managed to do this whole model and it works really great. So would I recommend the unbranded $20 3D pen? Well, this one, yeah, it worked really well. If you're just trying to test out 3D pen stuff, if you just wanna work on 3D printed models for doing repairs or holding things down on the build plate, get yourself a $20 3D pen. It's not a bad investment. Of course, if you're really serious about 3D pens, you could still get a Scribbler version 3. It's got some advantages in terms of the nice LCD readout. It's got more control over the speed and temperatures. But when it comes down to just straightforward 3D pen action, the cheap pen will do just fine. 3D pen modeling is less about the tool and more about your ability to use it. 3D pens are not easy to use, and a lot of people complain that I make it look too easy to make models. Well, it's just a matter of practice. So get yourself a cheap pen if that's what you can afford, and just keep practicing, and you should be able to get better and better when it comes to 3D pen models. All right, well, that was super fun. I'm really happy to have my first rejected animal, and I definitely want to make more of these because they're super fun. So make sure you follow my Instagram account, rejected.animals, if you want to see more fun animals like this. Make sure to check out the links in the description for the Blue Friday sales on MatterHackers filament. It's great if you want to make large things like this. Those tiny spools that come with 3D pens would be pretty annoying if you're trying to make something decently sized. I'm also gonna do some research for you guys and find some of the cheapest versions of this unbranded 3D pen and put links to that in the description as well if you're interested. All right, well, that's it for today's video. I had fun making it, so I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, I'm Devin. This is Make Anything. Don't forget to stay inspired.